I get it. You've probably spent a few evenings scrolling through endless telescope listings, trying to picture yourself looking up at Jupiter's bands or the faint smudge of a distant galaxy, and the last thing you want is to drop a decent chunk of cash on something that ends up gathering dust. The fear of buying the wrong optical tube is real, especially when you hear stories of people spending a lot and getting frustrated with collimation issues, heavy mounts, or just a blurry view that never lives up to the hype. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon, and I'm going to walk through why the Explore Scientific FCD100127075CF might be the right or wrong choice for you. First off, the FCD100 series is marketed as a 127mm carbon fiber triplet apochromatic refractor with a 952mm focal length, which translates to an f/7.5 system. In plain English, that means you have a relatively fast telescope for a refractor of this aperture, giving you a wider field of view than a typical f/10 doublet. For someone who enjoys scanning rich star fields in the Milky Way or wants a versatile instrument that can swing between planets and deep sky objects without swapping eyepieces constantly, that speed can be a real benefit. The carbon fiber tube also promises a lighter, thermally stable platform, which should keep the optics from shifting as night temperatures drop. But the numbers alone don't tell the whole story. The real test is how the telescope behaves once you've set it up on a backyard pier or a portable Altaz mount. Because it's a triplet design with extra low dispersion (ED) glass, you can expect color correction that's noticeably better than a standard achromatic doublet of the same size. In practice, that means planets like Saturn will show cleaner ring contrast and Mars will retain its reddish hue without the rainbow halos you sometimes see with cheaper refractors. If you're into planetary imaging, that chromatic performance can save you a lot of post-processing time. However, the 127mm aperture also caps the amount of light you can gather. The limiting magnitude of 13 is respectable for a scope of this size, but it's not going to pull out faint galaxies like M81 or the outer arms of Andromeda in a suburban sky. If you're hoping to spend most of your time hunting low-surface brightness objects, you might feel the instrument's reach falling short compared to a 6-inch Dobson or a larger apochromatic refractor. For most casual visual observers, though, the sweet spot lands right around bright nebulae such as the Orion Nebula, the Ring Nebula, and the brighter globular clusters. Those targets will fill the field nicely and showcase the color fidelity the triplet brings. One practical strength that often gets overlooked is the 2.5-inch hexagonal focuser. It's a step up from the standard 1.25-inch focuser you see on many entry-level refractors, giving you more flexibility with imaging accessories. If you plan to attach a small DSLR or a dedicated astronomy camera, that larger thread lets you use a wider range of adapters without the need for additional reducers. The hex shape also tends to be a bit more rigid, which can help maintain focus during longer exposure sessions, something that matters if you're dabbling in low-budget astrophotography. On the flip side, the carbon fiber tube, while lightweight, can sometimes feel a bit flimsy to users accustomed to solid aluminum or brass tubes. When you attach a heavier mount or a camera, the balance point shifts, and you may find yourself needing a sturdier dovetail or counterweights to keep vibrations down. That's not a deal breaker, but it does add a small extra cost if you're not already set up for that kind of load. Also, carbon fiber can be prone to scratches if you're not careful with handling, which is something to consider if you travel a lot and need to pack the tube in a case. Now let's talk about the rating. The overall star rating sits at 2.3 out of 5 from over 300 reviewers. That low average tells you there's a noticeable amount of dissatisfaction in the user base, even if we don't have specific snippets to quote. In my experience, when a product in this price range lands below 3 stars, the common complaints fall into a few buckets: collimation drift, mismatched expectations about image brightness, and occasional quality control quirks like misaligned focuser threads. Those are not necessarily deal breakers for everyone, but they're red flags if you're looking for a plug-and-play experience. If you're comfortable tweaking collimation a bit and you have a steady mount that can handle minor adjustments, you'll likely be fine. If you're hoping for a perfectly aligned system right out of the box and have limited patience for fine-tuning, you might end up frustrated. So, who should consider buying the Explore Scientific FCD100127075CF? If you're an intermediate visual observer who wants a portable, relatively fast refractor that delivers crisp planetary views and decent field coverage for bright deep sky objects, this telescope ticks many boxes. It's also a solid stepping stone for beginners who want to dip their toes into astrophotography without moving up to a 6-inch